Good evening, everyone. What is the secret to a truly unforgettable movie fight? Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on a Hollywood action with a man who choreographed some of the legendary supernatural battles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer and brought martial arts magic to the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger. Welcome back to OCAST, and with me tonight, our second show, Elena. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to talk about stunts in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yep. We are talking as we've now copyrighted it with you, the efficient violence of Buffy. So, but on to a veteran stunt coordinator, fight choreographer, and a director as well. The one who gets punched takes the fall and makes our heroes look good. Jeff Pruitt, welcome to the show.
Hello.
So,
Good to be here.
welcome. Really excited to have you. So, I think just start at the beginning. How did you get involved in film and TV? Did you have the bug as a kid, or were you on a different path and then suddenly you went into stunt work?
No, actually, I did have the bug as a kid because I used to watch samurai films,
Oh, yeah.
westerns, and especially when the Green Hornet television series came along. I was just a little kid, and when I saw Bruce Lee, that was it. That's what I knew I wanted to do that, but I didn't know how. And then eventually, through the years, studying the different stuntmen and things, I thought, well, this is the path I'm going to go down. I was actually in college when I started
Okay.
because some films came to Georgia. I grew up in Georgia in the USA, and some films came to Georgia, and I started going to Atlanta to work on films. First as an extra, then as a PA, then as a camera operator, and then gradually I met stunt people and started training and working with them and moving on, and eventually moved to Hollywood and kept going.
So basically, the stunt bug was
So it
just
was Bruce Lee. It was
yeah.
Bruce Lee that got me into stunts.
All right. So it was specifically stunts. You just wanted to do all that cool action stuff. Essentially, that was it. And then from there, so like, what was your kind of first few stunt jobs? Like, what was your kind of
I worked on a Chuck Norris movie. There were just a bunch of low budget films,
yeah?
and a young second AD on second unit on a Chuck Norris film in Atlanta met me, and I showed him a demo tape I've been making with the guys
Yeah.
in the backyard, fighting stuff, and he was talking about the director of second unit was going to make this movie called Bloodsport, and he
Yeah.
wanted to try to bring me along to be one of the characters in that. And then I got injured and I couldn't go, and eventually I got into Hollywood. And while I was there trying to get jobs on different films, this young second AD got a job directing a martial arts film.
All right.
He started trying to call me back in Georgia to see if I could come to Hollywood, but I was already there.
Yeah.
So I just zoomed right over and said, "Hey, yeah, I'm here." And so we went to work, and I started working, and I kept going from there.
So just to get this right, did you start off as a stuntman and then go to a stunt coordinator, or were you always a coordinator first,
Right,
or was it
right.
both at the
Well,
same time?
I started out. No, I had to work as a stuntman for a long time,
Yeah.
and and I grew up racing motorcycles and things like that, and competing in martial arts. I did all of that in the 70s, uh, and then by the time the late 80s came around,
Mhm.
I was working as a stuntman, and then they wanted at that time martial arts choreography wasn't really a big
Yeah.
thing in stunts in Hollywood. It was all cowboy style fights, and if they needed one, they would usually have one guy who had some martial arts
Yeah.
skills, but not. And I just because since 1960, I just focused on that
Yeah.
on martial arts for film. So by the time I got there, I had all of these ideas I wanted to put on film, and so they would say, okay, kid, we'll give you a chance here, choreograph a fight. And I would go and I would choreograph the fight, and it would work, and they would go, wow. Then I would explain camera movement, camera angles to use, how to
All
edit
right.
together. And so pretty soon they started going, well, let the kid do it, let the kid do it. And pretty soon, the next thing I know, I was choreographing fights for other people, for other stunt coordinators, and then gradually became the stunt coordinator myself, and just went on from there and started directing second unit.
Yeah. Quite
So
cute.
I would direct all of the action scenes.
Yeah. So, because for me, like, I always remember the 80s, a lot of the stunt work was essentially explosions, falling and burning kind of thing, wasn't it? And falling, you were either falling or burning, or falling and burning in a lot of 80s action movies, wasn't it? A lot of gun work.
right? And a lot of car jumps.
Yeah.
Remember? You remember all of
Oh,
the car action when
yeah.
it was huge. People were trying. I remember when I started stunts, they were thinking about how can we do a different car jump. Sometimes they would plan these elaborate. I mean, Evil Knievel was the thing, right? With
Mhm.
this big, everyone wanted to see who could jump the car the furthest or do a spin, who could do the most rollovers, on a pipe ramp. We used to have all of that. So that was like the big part of stunts at that time, the biggest thing, and high falls. Now today we rarely do the big high falls that
Yeah.
I used to have guys go off 100 feet onto an airbag,
Right.
big high falls off a building. But now we don't have that. I mean, we rarely have anything like that. It's all with CG because you can just put a falling body from
Yeah.
CG and have that, or a green screen, and you don't really need to have someone go up that high. So it's
Yeah.
just things change, according to technology.
Yeah. Someone just commented there every single episode of the A Team when you mentioned car jumps.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And I've worked with the writers and producers from A Team, and Steve Sears, he was the producer and writer of Xena, and he was the producer and writer of a show I did called Sheena, which I did after Buffy. But he said he wrote some stuff for the A Team, just getting elaborate with action scenes, and the stunt guys would be so excited they wanted to do it,
Yeah.
but the budgets would not allow it. It was
Yeah.
just too much. And today, I think you could get away with it by mixing real stunts with CG stunts, and you could actually pull it off. But to do what he had written in the script, you couldn't do it. You would have to spend months just to do that, and you've only got like 8 days, and you've got to be finished with your show and moving to the next show. So on television, it was very difficult. They did some incredible stuff
Yeah.
for what they were doing back
Yeah.
then.
Because
Yeah, that was a lot.
TV all the way up till probably the end of the noughties was very breakneck pace it worked at. So it was 24 episodes a season sometimes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We would do 22 a season on Buffy when I did it, and
Yeah.
22 episodes, and I would be prepping one episode with the new director coming in while shooting the current episode, and then picking up shots from the previous episode. So I would actually be working on 3 episodes at
Yeah.
once every week, while everyone else just worked on that week's episode. I was on all of them all the time. I sometimes I would just sleep on the stunt pads because I didn't have time to go home.
Jesus. Right. Before you did Buffy, probably the big one folk will know you from is Power Rangers, and that's quite different to a lot of the other
Oh
ones because
yeah.
that's very exaggerated. It's basically a living cartoon. So how did that differ in coordinating?
Well, the funny thing about Power Rangers was I had been doing all of these martial arts
Yeah.
movies, these, with direct to DVD. I mean, back then it was VHS, and it was back direct to VHS, and so when I did Power Rangers, it turned out to be very, very successful around the world, and everyone knew it. And so the people on Buffy, some of the crew people on Buffy said when they were going to start, they got picked up, and they said, okay, we want to bring the action up and everything, and you've got to bring in Jeff. And so as soon as Joss heard that I did Power Rangers, that was it. He
Right.
didn't want me, but I didn't know. And so they would say, Jeff, make a demo for him. And I would go, okay. And I said, what's the show like? And it's like, oh, it's like she's the Pink Ranger. It's like you've got to show him what you did. Show him what you did with the Pink Ranger, because Sophia was the Pink Ranger. I would go, okay. So I would put a
Yeah.
Power Ranger tape and send it. As soon as he saw the first clip of Power Rangers, he would throw it away. He would
Okay.
go, because, and I didn't know this, but the reason was when he was trying to pitch the show, different executives would say, so you're going to do like an after school show starring the Pink Ranger kind of character, right? And it's going to be for kids, right? And he would go, no, no, it's not like that. So it was, and in his mind, he hated that. So he hated Power Rangers. He was like, and it was, I had to mimic the Sentai Japanese style.
Yeah.
Plus, I would add some very wild, over the top wire gags
Yeah.
and gymnastics that made no sense, but it was fun for the kids, right?
Yeah.
Everything I did, I thought about what would the kids enjoy, and every day I would have to come up with something new for the kids. But I was thinking in terms of, this is for the kids, exciting the kids. I wanted the kids to jump out of their chairs and start playing Power Rangers, right? So that was my goal. And we sold a lot of toys. It was very successful, but it was killing me trying to get, and I could
Yeah.
not get to see Joss. And he would go, no, I don't want to meet that guy. So they hired a new guy, and they had him set up. He was a top stunt coordinator, really big
Yeah.
name stunt coordinator. And that was it. And they said, well, the job's over. And Sophia said, well, it's too bad. I wish you could have come. It would have been nice for us to work together on this show because I'm going to be there all the time. And they said, well, we told Sarah. And Sarah said, well, why won't he meet you? And I said, well, because, I'm the Power Ranger guy. And I just found out he hates Power Rangers, so he won't meet me. And she said, oh, just let me talk to him. So Sarah Michelle Gellar, went in, and nobody knew who she was then. She was just this young actress. So she went in and she said, I want you to meet with him. Just meet with him. And he said, I've already hired somebody. They've got the business, big name guys coming in, and we're lucky to get him. So I don't want to hear about it. And she said, well, just meet him. Just meet him. And she said, okay, I'll meet the guy, but maybe I can use him somewhere down the road or something. But I'll say hello to him. Okay. So and they called me. I was sitting there eating lunch, and they called me and said, okay, Joss says he can meet you for 5 minutes. And I went, oh crap, what am I don't have anything prepared. So I grabbed a tape. It was just a trailer a trailer for a movie that I had done with Sophia that had like some clips of me from another movie called Mission of Justice, where I got to play the side. I was choreographing the fights and doubling the lead actor and playing the lead actor's sidekick. So I was all over it. So I just had a bunch of clips of me, it was basically a stunt reel for me. So I just came in with that and sat down and I played it. And as soon as he saw it, he went, that's Buffy. That's Buffy. Buffy's supposed to fight like that. So he said, can Sophia do that? And I said, yes, Sophia could do that. And he said, well, but how do you not make the guys look like they're, he said, because we always have these guys standing around and they come in and the lead character hits the one guy while the others stand and wait their turn. And then he goes down. Then that guy comes in. He said, how you're making it look like they're all fighting at once. I mean, how do you do that? So I jumped up out of my chair and I showed him, this is how you place the camera. This is how you place the stunt people. This is how, and I just did a quick combination. He went, you're the guy. And he said, call the other guy. And so he told the executive producer, call the other guy. And they said, wait, we can't. We've hired him. He said, I don't care. This is the guy. And that's it. So from then on, it was us. We were making Buffy. And he said, make Buffy fight like you did in that movie. And I said, that will be Buffy. I promise. Right. And it was, that became the Slayer style.
Yeah. So I'm going to direct this one at Elena. Knowing that now, do you notice a difference in the fight style from season 1 to season 2?
I have to say, like, not really, because also, like, it's hard to, like, remember these, like, detailed fights. Although what I do notice that even though sometimes Buffy still fights in the later seasons in highly impractical clothing, it kind of like shifted to slightly fight friendly attire in the second season. I recently rewatched it, but I just wanted to say it really worked, the strategy you had for Power Rangers, because I watched it as a kid and it's just the moves were just setting me on fire, so I was trying to like recreate them, and there's no record of that, fortunately. But I do, even though it's like different fighting style from what I can tell in Buffy, I still get this like joy from watching the fight scenes, because it's this like combination of really sophisticated moves, but at the same time, just like sometimes you'll just like smash the vampire into a wall, and it gives you this sense of like she's getting the job done. So it's just joy to watch. I just wanted to say.
Well, what I tried to do was make martial arts action, but also have a rough edge to it, because a lot of the time when guys come in and they're martial artists and they want to make a martial arts fight, they make it too dancey, they're too posy, and it doesn't feel like it's really happening because everyone's just going, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can tell they know exactly what, but we don't. You can do that in Hong Kong, but we didn't want that. And this is what Joss and I had discussed, was how do we make it like she's doing martial arts, like a martial arts movie, but you also got to have the rough edge around it where you're slamming into stuff, you're breaking stuff, you're going, and awkward things happen too. So it's got to be that combination. So that was the combination of East and Western styles mixed together that made Buffy. That's what I had done on shows like this Mission of Justice I talked about. That was with Jeff Wincott starring in that, and people saw that and they thought, yeah, that's what we want for Buffy. Josh said, that's what we want for Buffy. To can you make her more like that? So that's what we did, and it worked, and it worked really well.
Well, I guess also because Buffy is like one of the like main traits of that character, and why also she's relatable despite being a superhero, is that she kind of improvises heavily, and it's almost like the fact that she fights vampires. It's like sometimes it almost feels like, oh, it's the same to her as like filing her nails, which she also does from her looks. So that fighting style kind of really goes with it, with her approach, I find. So it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
almost.
one thing we would do is Joss and I would, before every episode, we would have our production meeting, right, with the director and with the whole crew, all the department heads, and then they would go away, and Joss and I would have our own meeting privately, just to talk about action, and I would tell him my ideas for this script, what I wanted to do, what I had in mind, and then he would tell me what I could probably get away with and what I couldn't get away with. We would have like A, B, and C kind of rough
Yeah.
plans. And then I learned that I couldn't, unless it was a big fight that we pre planned in advance, almost all of the fights I would choreograph 1 hour before the fight, 1 hour before shooting, because I learned that there were so many changes going on with Buffy and the script, and things would change, and our schedule would change. Everything was changing and I would have to be ready. So I would wait to choreograph. I would have an idea based on what Joss and I talked about, but then I would wait to intricately choreograph everything 1 hour before,
Hmm.
and that made it possible to adapt and everything, make everything fresh based on the set, what the final set turned out to be, and how much time I had.
With Sarah particularly, did you have to hold her back a lot? Did she want to do a lot of stuff herself? Was she very keen to do a lot of the fights?
Who, Sarah?
Sarah.
Yeah.
No, because I mean, typically this is where I'm different from other stunt coordinators. You're supposed to sit there and say, "Oh, the actor was incredible," but she didn't really have any martial arts skills at all. She was like imagine just a young girl, right? A young 100-pound girl, and that was it. So she had kind of in originally, remember Julie Benz, right?
Yeah.
The actress Julie Benz from some originally they considered Julie Benz was going to play Buffy and Sarah was going to play Cordelia,
Yeah.
which she would have been great at. I mean, she's excellent. She could either one she could play perfectly. But Sarah would thought, well, I would like to be the star if I could. So she told them a little white lie, which actors do all the time, which was that she had this martial arts background. And so the producers told me when I met them, they said, I mean, I knew Sophia was doubling Sarah and I already knew that she couldn't do martial arts. But when I met the producers, the first thing they said was, "Well, when you start making these fights, you got to think about Sarah because, you know, it, the first day, as soon as we got out there, we saw this girl doesn't know anything about martial arts." And I said, "Don't worry, she knew what a back fist was and she knew what a front kick was. So it's just a matter of getting her to start the motion, and then we cut to Sophia doing the kick or whatever it is, and that's all we need. We just need her action, her upper body action, to start it, and then I'll have her stake the guy at the end, and then you've got it. We can move. We can get a lot done that way. So, but no, she never was like, oh, let me do this. Today she's probably like that because she's actually more physical today
Mhm.
after getting married to Freddie. This is the funny thing too about it is, well, during the making of Buffy, she would sit in her chair and just read fashion magazines while we made the fight, and then I would bring her out and do those 3 or 4 shots, right? 2 to 4 shots I would do with her, and then that was it. And she would often just wear her tennis shoes. We had a plan, what we called the Buffy boots. We would try to we would try to make the fight scenes happen while Buffy was wearing these particular boots, which was easier for Sophia to fight in. And we would try to make the clothing, like you were talking about the wardrobe, like
Yeah.
say in the prom outfit, she had to do some fighting and that. Things like that was difficult, but we tried to make it most of the time when she was fighting to be wearing something that you could move in with pants that would stretch and move, and wearing those what we called the Buffy boots. But Sarah would just wear tennis shoes because you didn't even have to see her feet. She would just, so she would come out there in her tennis shoes, we'd do our shots, and she would go back, and sometimes she would just stay in the trailer and do other stuff because she had so many changes in the script. She would be getting changes to the next scene she was going to have to act in. This is what amazed me about the actors on Buffy, was they would get new versions of the script. They had already prepared themselves to do a scene, and now the script has changed to where that scene is different. It's completely different. The dialogue is different. So she would be in the trailer going over her dialogue for the next thing, and she knew we were taking care of the fight. She wasn't worried about the fight. So then she would come out and do whatever we asked her to do, and that was it. So no, she was never like going crazy about wanting to do anything because she knew, you know,
Mhm.
there's no reason, just you get injured. And we learned also, I remember it was in some fight where we had two actors together and one of them hit the other. It wasn't Sarah, but it was in, and we decided, look, let's just make a rule where we're shooting over the shoulder when an actor's getting punched in the face and we're showing the actor's face. Only a stunt person is swinging at him. But in that way, so we never had a shot where an actor was hitting another actor in the face. It was always a stunt double hitting the actor in the face, and that way we never had that danger of actors hitting each other. Because what would happen is, if we tried to use a shot where, okay, now we're going to have these two actors hitting each other, what I would do is just have one quick moment where they did 1-2 and stop, but not really hit each other, because if we tried to do more than that, they would get excited, and the next thing you know, somebody's got a bloody nose or something, and we can't, because you can't, even though they would love to do more fighting. The thing is, if one actor, I had this happen on another show where, and it wasn't in a fight scene, but he had to do a fight scene with me, and he showed up on the set and his eye was closed like that, and I said, dude, what happened? I thought he got stung by a bee or something. And he said, well, it turns out he was a kind of mm, you know, a very romance oriented guy.
Okay.
So he met a fan who really liked his character, and the next thing you know, they wind up having a romantic interlude at a hotel. So he comes to the set the next day, everything's great, and he's happy, and then this guy comes up, and the guy asked him, he said, "You've met my wife," and he said, "Oh, lovely, yes, yeah." And the next thing you know, boom, he's punched in the face because he had slept with the guy's wife. Now I had to do a fight scene with this guy. His whole face is closed up, so I'm trying to shoot on this side. I'm like, oh my god. And then you should have seen the director's face. The director came, and the director had to shoot the entire episode, acting scenes with this guy with one side of his face totally closed up. And he was using, like, he had like shadows, he had leaves, like the guy would be, the other actors mostly talking, then they would do height. It was terrible, but there's nothing we could do because the lead actor, his eyeball was closed, and it took 2 weeks for his eyeball to open back up. So that's why things like that, we thought we can't have them getting hit in the face, and with Sarah especially, because she was kind of frail. I said to the stunt guys, you do not muss her hair, do not even shake her, do you understand me? And they were like, yes, yes, okay. So they were very, very careful and gentle with her to make sure she never ever would get hit in the face or hurt in any way. But Sophia, I said, sorry,
Yeah.
Sophia, you're toast, man. And I would say, as far as Sophia goes, guys, just pummel her. It's no problem. She can take it. So that's the way we did it.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly about that. like when you look at the actor's physique, and in this case specifically Sarah, it's just like actors doing their own stunts. Unless they are really into it and long-term train, their bodies are just not ready to handle it in many ways, right? So
Right. Well, you have the guy who plays Thor.
yeah.
He and his stunt double are very close. They train together. Their bodies are very similar. Sophia did try to get Sarah to train, but she would go. There was like some, I forget. It was like some super expensive gym that Sophia had to join, and she would go down there to train Sarah. But at that time, I mean, she's different now. I'm sure she's all grown up now, but she was a kid and she was becoming a star. She was becoming like this it girl, and she just wanted to go there and meet other actors and socialize. Sophia could not get her to do anything to help her to build up. So that was the way it was. I'm sure, like I said, after she met Freddie. Now Freddie, this is a funny story about Freddie. I did go to one of these convention things, and they were asking me about Sarah's fighting, and I said, well, no, she's the best actress I've ever seen in my life, but she's not really a real martial artist. And I said, now her spouse, Freddie is a real martial artist. He did martial arts, he did boxing, he does jujitsu. I mean, this guy, he loved pro wrestling growing up. He could have been a stuntman. As a matter of fact, if he had been a stuntman, I would have hired him to be Angel's stunt double, and he and Sarah would have still gone out and gotten married. Same thing. Because she dated, I set her up on a date with Angel's stunt double one time. She was, so she would have said the same thing she said about Angel's stunt double. She said to me at that time, all these guys were coming after her. I mean, producers, agents were trying to get her to go out with their client who was on another show. They thought it would be good, good publicity to have two actors together. And it was just like she just wanted a nice guy, somebody that she was compatible with. And so she saw the Angel stunt double that I had, and she said, "Oh, he's cute." And I said, "Really?" I said, "I'll set you up." So I set him up on a date, but then afterwards, this is how young she was. I never thought of Sarah. She was still a teenager at that time, and never thought of her as a teenager. I always thought of her as being my age because she was so super intelligent and so good at her job. So when they came back from the date, I remember I started grilling the guy, and I said, did you how did it go? He was like, "Oh well, yeah, she's nice, but she's just a kid, man. She only knows how to talk about herself." He said, "I want to date," and I said, "What do you mean? Maybe it's you. Do you ever think about that? Maybe you should learn how to talk to her because she can talk about anything." And I was like coming down on him. He was like, "Easy, easy, bro." And I said, "Well, did you kiss her? Yes or no? Just tell me." And he was like, uh, "Are you going to fire me?" And I said, "No, just tell me." And he said, "Well, yeah, I mean, I did, but it's just like, we can be friends. I just don't want to date her." And I said, "Look, go back to the set, man. I don't want to talk to you because you don't know how to talk to a girl." And he was like, "Okay, fine." So I was like I realized when he walked away, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm only supposed to protect her from, from injury. I don't have to protect her in her real life. But finally she met Freddie, and when I went to this convention, the fans were talking about, and shows you how people think. They were talking about martial arts, and I said, "Well, she didn't really do martial arts back then. She was just, a great actress." And I said, "But Freddie is this incredible martial arts guy." And they looked at me and they said, "What? Freddie Prince?" Because, and I really, they said, "No, Sarah would kick his head off. Are you kidding?" I would say, "No, Sarah won't kick anybody's head off. What are you talking about?" So I realized they look at Freddie because Freddie did rom-coms. He was this like boy band type
Yeah.
image that he had, this cute guy image. And then Sarah was this super fighting Slayer chick. So I thought that's the image they have of them. In real life, it's not, it's the other way around. Freddie is the one who will kick your head off, and Sarah's just, cute girl. But the image that people have, that's one thing I realized from Buffy is when I talk to people, the image they have of the actors versus the
Yeah.
real life thing, that is incredible, the difference. One of the, I won't say who it is, but one of the actors I was at this thing with, and the fans came up and they started asking me why he was laughing that way. And I said, what do you mean? He said, he makes these kind of jokes and then he puts on this phony laugh. Why is he doing that? And I thought, what are you talking about? And I saw he was just being himself. He was laughing. That's the way he laughs. But he didn't laugh that way on the show.
Yeah.
On the show, he played a character. They thought that character, that's the way he must be in real life. They didn't realize those are two different people. He just looks and sounds similar, but it's two different personalities. Same way Sarah is nothing like Buffy. All of they're all different. Everyone's different. Because these are just characters on a piece of paper that a great actor looks at and goes, "Okay, I know how to interpret this. I'll make this real." And that's the one thing I learned from Buffy is sometimes people in fandom get really carried away with the characters and sort of put those character traits onto the real life person, and it's so different.
Yeah.
And of course, yeah, sorry, Callum, did you?
Sorry, I was going to ask a question there, but you kind of answered. You said because that really is the best kind of review you could have ever gotten, that people believe Sarah is an ass kicker, like you said, because that was kind of
Yeah,
down to a lot to make this tiny little frail girl seem
right.
like she could beat the
If you
crap
think
out of
about
a
how
vampire. Like,
well, I said when I first started the show, we were talking about, okay, this is, and then the vampires have want to kill Buffy, and then I just stopped one day when we were walking on the set. I said, well, these vampires, all right, you're telling me like they can get mansions and somehow they get electricity, they can get cars, they can do whatever they want to do, but they can't just park outside her house and when she comes out, just shoot her in the head. Why can't they just get a gun? He said, dude, you think too much. Stop thinking. He said, and then I realized he's right. If you stop and think about the concept of Buffy, it's too stupid. Because when I told people about the show, I would try to tell them, and these are people in show business, I would tell them, oh, I'm doing, they're going, oh my God, dude, you're going to make that show? I wouldn't put my name on that. That's what they would say. And I would go, yo, but you should see the writing. It's different. It's going to be different. So, but then when people started watching it, and this is the thing that you're talking about, people believing that Sarah was doing all of this stuff. It's the writing was so good, and the atmosphere they created that it would lean toward sitcom comedy. It would lean toward drama and romance. It would lean toward action, and you would just you were so involved with those characters, you follow them along, and then you want to see what's going to happen next with these guys, and that's when you know you've got something. When you have a show like that, when the people are involved with the characters, that's when they care about the fights. Otherwise, it's just some stunts and it's cool to watch. But then between the stunt action, like on Hong Kong films, I used to just rent Hong Kong films and cut out everything except the
yeah,
fights and just have a reel of stunts. All the stunt guys did that. We would have stunt reels of Hong Kong action because nobody wanted to sit through the dialogue, right? But on Buffy, that was the one show I worked on that I actually would watch myself, just as if I didn't work on it or it didn't matter. I would sit back and watch the show
okay,
and actually enjoy it.
okay,
Even
good.
and just forget that I had worked on it. I would
Yeah.
just watch the show and go, "Wow, this is a good
Oh.
show."
Yeah, that answers the question we had up on the screen there. He was asking, have you watched all of it yourself? So it's like one of those rare things. It's something you made
I,
that you enjoy
yeah,
for yourself. Kind of, you're able to separate yourself from it, aren't you, when you watch it?
I'm sorry I couldn't hear you, Cal.
Oh, gee, there's something, I don't know what it is. But no, I said there's a question
It's
on the screen there. Someone asked, did you watch all of it yourself? But
oh yeah,
it's one of the few things
I
you're able
watched.
to watch independently of knowing you were
Mhm.
involved with it.
Yeah, that Buffy and Star Trek are the two that I would watch that I worked on, and Batman I watched that and things like that. A lot of the shows like I love making Power Rangers, and it was but as far as me watching it, I was too old for it, but making it I would get into the mindset of it and make it, so but
I wanted to ask, because you were Also, I assume, involved in preparing stunts for the other cast members. But of course, they were not supernaturally gifted. But you can tell, especially like as the seasons progress, that Willow and Xander and Giles, they have some tricks up their sleeve as well. So could you speak a bit about how you like designed the different stunts for the different characters, depending on what their role
Well,
was?
it's funny because I predicted this when I got on the show. When we started, they started letting me make the fights bigger for Sarah, for Buffy. The Buffy fights got a little bigger, and then when I first started the show, Angel, if you watch first season, you'll see Angel is wearing a white shirt, and he's like he comes in and he watches, and he's sort of there to give Buffy some advice and help. But the first fight that I did with Buffy, Angel trips and falls, and Buffy comes and saves him, and that kind of thing. So I said to Jaws, and I knew what it was. Buffy, there's a Japanese anime called Yoko Devil Hunter, and Joss and I, one of the things that we talked about when I first met him was anime and all these different anime. If you watch a lot of his shows, they're all based loosely on these different anime that he watched. And the one I mentioned was Yoko, and it's because she's into so many generations. A new devil slayer is born, and her watcher is her grandmother, and then there's another. She dies briefly, and then I think she has a cousin or something who comes in. They have two slayers at once, and all of these different things. And there was a character. Her friend was a girl who was good at computers, and the girl's friend who was really in love with Yoko. It was all of these different elements that were put into the Buffy script. And I noticed this character that was like Angel, who was watching, and he was always being saved by Yoko, and so Buffy was always saving Angel. And so I said to him, you know, I get it. He said, yeah, this is like he said, because when I grew up, the guy was always saving the girl. The girl would always trip and fall, and the guy would come and save her. And so I've kind of reversed that. And he said, but I had that on Power Rangers. The Saban was always telling me the girls will trip and fall, and then the guys will come and save her. But then I made them equal. I made them all equal. So they're superheroes, and they're all equal, and they're fighting the baddies. And I said, can't we make Angel more equal to Buffy? I said, can I have Angel throw a kick and a punch and knock out some guys? And he said, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, let me just throw a couple of kicks. He said, okay, one kick. And it was in this fight scene where the vampires are getting blood from a blood bank,
Yes,
and
yeah.
the car pulls up. So that time I had a guy double Angel and do a kick and knock him into the car, and then we sort of like had them fighting side by side equally, rather than just a little bit from Angel. And Buffy was the killer fighter, but Angel was not. Then when they became equals, everybody liked it, and then we went on with the Buffy Angel romance, making them equal, and that was one big change that I brought to it. And then once that happened, I told Jaws, I said, okay, now that I've made Angel a kick-ass guy, I said, I'll bet you're going to start hearing other cast members, and they're going to want to do more action. And
Uh-huh.
sure enough, they said that's what you're talking about, because as we went along, all of a sudden Giles, who was this mild-mannered, clumsy guy, suddenly he's going to sword fight, because everybody wants to do fighting now. Everybody wants to get in, and I understood. We did it, but then there was a time when it was getting to be too much. I said, it might be taking away from Buffy as the superhero of the show to have everyone knocking out vampires. We got to tone that down. He said, you're right, we got to tone that down. So, but there was a so we had to figure out a way, how can we involve all of the Scoobies in the action without making them outshine Buffy and this kind of thing. But Angel, he could still be as strong as Buffy. So that's what we did, and it worked that way. It worked great.
And of course, then we have Faith in the third
Uh,
season. So did
well, when
you try to develop like different fighting styles for them? Because they're supposed to be like kind of like
yeah,
a
there.
shadow
Well,
of each
what happened with Faith was, he told me that, okay, we're going to introduce this other. He told me all about Faith. He said, so I'm gonna have you go and to her manager's house and pick her up, bring her back to your place, and have her practice that, because I had Sarah practice that Sophia's pose. I said, just snap it, pose like Sophia, do this thing. So I said, take her and do the same thing with her and train her any way you can. But he said, this is the thing about the character Faith that we're going to introduce. He said, Faith has been abused and she has these psychological issues. She really has a lot of anger in her, whereas Buffy is kind of adjusted to her role as a slayer and what she has to do and how to get through it. Faith she's got this anger. She wants to kill, and Buffy has to like stop her sometimes because she goes crazy. And so I remember I got on the Buffy the Bronze, the Buffy online group, and I told him I had this character, but she's sitting here with me, but I can't tell you anything about her. And they were all dying and I said, just wait, you're going to see. There's going to be a new character on the show. And the very first fight, I had Karen Shepard doubling Faith and Sophia, and we did this fight. Well, the first fight I did was just introducing Faith, and that was at the Bronze. But the next fight was one where they wrote into the script about her pounding this guy, and that guy, that vampire, if you see that fight out in the construction yard, like with Buffy and Faith fighting together, and then Buffy looks over and she sees Faith on top of this vampire pounding him. That vampire is David Leitch, who is the director of Atomic Blonde and what's the one with John Wick, So he's the director of all of those films and Nobody, So back then, he and I were talking about stunts and fight scenes and stuff. And I told him, he kept saying, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? You don't understand, because I've got so much time. And then other people, when you're the stunt coordinator and you're trying to be second unit director and stunt coordinator, you'll find out you have all these other people, other chefs telling you what you can and can't do. You'll want to do things. You'll try to get it. You might get maybe 1/3 of what you really want to do, and that's how it'd be. And then he started doing second unit, and he realized, yeah, that's true. And he said, how can we get more action? And I said, well, the only way is if you could become the producer and the director yourself and have enough money in the budget. I said, but that's never going to happen. No stunt guy is ever going to do that. And then the next thing I knew, he made this thing called John Wick, and it was such a hit because they had become friends with Keanu. So Keanu helped them, and Brad Pitt helped them, and then they made these movies. And then once that happened, now he can do all of the action he wants, and it's just incredible. But if you look at that fight scene, that's Dave. Dave getting pounded by Faith. But Faith is, we're demonstrating her personality. And every single character on the show, I would go off to the side with Joss and talk about these characters, what their personality was, so that it fit with the script. And if it were just random vampires popping up in the graveyard fight or something, I could have them do martial arts or not do martial arts or be this. It didn't matter. But I could just randomly do whatever I wanted. But when it came to main characters like, say, Angel or Riley or Spike or Faith, and they had to fight a certain way, do things a certain way, and they had a reason for doing things. Their personalities, you'll see the episode where Buffy and Faith switch bodies and they're fighting in the church.
Yeah.
That pounding and thing, that I recreated that there because that was Faith being angry. That was her anger coming out again. And it was the same thing that we had done in the very first fight where she was pounding a vampire. She's fighting with Buffy, and she's got all of her anger, but she's in Buffy's body. So that's a different personality. It's not Buffy's personality. They do the same techniques, but they do things in a different way. Faith has issues, man. It does.
We've had a question come in there. I will stick it on the screen. Gosha is asking, I imagine stunts don't always go perfectly. I ever had a close call or mishap while filming.
Yes. What happened was, do you remember the episode where there's a hunter who he lays a net for Buffy,
Yes.
and Buffy steps on the net and it pulls and it closes up around her,
When he's
and he comes
hunting
up and
for werewolves.
he's hunting. Yeah, and he comes up and pokes her with the gun, and she's in the net. Remember that? So the net, the special effects guys set this net up, and it goes up to a big crane, and there are some counterweights, sandbags in a bag. And I saw how much weight they were using. It was like 300 pounds. They were going to drop off this 18-step ladder. And I said, guys, that's too much weight. I said, all it takes is one guy to hold the rope and sit down. It'll close up, because Sophia weighs like 105 pounds, 110 pounds max. And I said, you got to back off on that. And they went, oh, okay. So they took the weight off. Well, when I walked away, the special effects guy got angry. He said, who is this stunt guy telling me what to? He said, put the weight back on. So he put the weights back in there. So we didn't know. Sophia steps on the net and the weights drop, and she shot straight up. We had a camera on the crane. She went past the camera, past the crane, came out of the net, and she was falling. And as a matter of fact, if you go to my YouTube channel in the second season, I've got all of this behind the scenes of Buffy footage. And if you go there, you can see this net gag happening. And what happened is she came out of the net, and while she was falling, she was able to hook one heel and put her fingers in the net on the outside. And she caught herself and snapped her neck back just a couple of feet before she hit the ground.
Oh.
And she had whiplash really bad, but she was okay. And I ran in and got her, and it scared me so bad. I said, man. So I took her back to the trailer and I said, okay, that's it. So just in case this happens again, I think we should get married. And she said, okay. So that was the night I asked her to marry me. It's the fault of the special effects guys. They made me marry her, man. So I got scared, and I was too afraid to ask her to marry me before, but they brought it out of me, man. I just got so scared. I said, we got to get married because you're bound to get killed sooner or later. So that's what happened.
Oh wow,
Gosh,
that's a great.
and Gosh has just pointed out she literally just watched that episode for the first time today. That's why she was asking. Coincidences. Wow. Also, I'm curious. This is because I'm a big Star Trek fan. You worked on Deep Space Nine and Voyager, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I did.
So, what was that like? Was it coordinating or just stunt work you did there?
Well, I would just come in. The stunt coordinator was Dennis Madelon.
Yeah.
He did all of the Star Treks in the 90s, and I would just go in and be, the guy in the red shirt, they used to call it on Star Trek. Whoever gets killed, I would come in, and I did multiple episodes of that. But one time, it was funny because one time this was Deep Space Nine. He said he wanted to just get one of the stunt guys, and the director was a race car driver, and he was really a good friend of the stunt community. The Dennis was saying to the director, "Hey, let me just have one of the stunt guys play this acting part, because then we can just start fighting. I don't have to worry about doubling or anything." And they said, "Yeah, but they want to bring the actors in." And he said, "Well, look, I'm just going to take this guy Jeff," and he showed my picture to the director. He said, "I'm just going to take this guy. You see how he looks? He looks, like he could be an actor, right? So I'm just going to stick his picture in with the stack of resumes that they're going through and that have made it through." So casting, I went in there and I'm sitting there with all of the actors, and I got up and auditioned for a part, and it was a guest starring role, right? And I just acted military because that's all it was. It was just guy acting, and I got the part. And so we didn't tell anybody. We didn't tell anybody that I was a stunt guy. I went there. I did all of the acting scenes. All of the other actors were super nice. They were really, really, really cool set to work on. And then came time for the fight scene. And as soon as the fight scene starts, I throw myself down the stairs and everything, and then he picks me up and hits me in the nose and shoves me back against the rail, and then he knocks me over the rail. And I remember one of the lead actors jumped up, and he just said, stop this. And he went over to Dennis And he said, Dennis, what are you doing, man? Where's his stunt double? And then Dennis said, well, actually, he is the stunt man. And he said, we let him just say some words, you know. And he said, oh, God. He said, I thought you were killing one of our actors. And he said, but he did a good job. So he was upset because the actor didn't have a stunt man,
All
but I
right.
was a stunt man. A similar thing happened on Buffy, where one of our producers used to be an actor, and he never really, he never really made it as an actor. He was from Wales, actually. He came over and produced a show called Remington Steele,
Yeah.
and on Remington Steele, he became really abusive toward the stunt crew, and he just abused this one stunt guy all the time. And then finally, he fired him, just fired him right off the show. So then, and I always wondered why he had a thing against stunt people, because he was always making some snarky comments about stunt people, right? But then he would turn around and laugh and, oh, I was just kidding, Jeff. But what had happened was, after he had fired this stunt guy, he was at some ritzy restaurant in Beverly Hills, and he was standing out front waiting to go in the restaurant, and he ran into the stunt guy, and he said something then, but he forgot the stunt guy wasn't working for him anymore. He didn't care. So the stunt guy just wound up smacking him around, picking him up, and dumping him into a trash can. So he was upside down in the trash can. So he hated stunt guys after that. So when we got on Buffy, he was always talking about how stunt guys can't act. Stunt guys can't act. I don't even want to say. And so one of the stunt guys did the same thing as me. He auditioned for a part as an actor, got the part. So here he was playing a part on
Yeah.
Buffy. I was just going to do the fight with him. But then I realized how vicious this one producer was toward the stunt guys acting. And I said, if he finds out you're a stunt guy, he's going to treat you like crap. I said, so don't say anything about you've ever done stunts before. You're a major thespian, man. That's all you are. You are an actor. And you're like, oh my God, I don't do stunts. Are you kidding? Where's my stunt double? And he said, okay, that's you. Okay. He said, got it. So I got a stunt double. So I had this guy who was a great stunt man sitting next to another great stunt man who had to double him so that the producer wouldn't think that he had hired a stunt double, a stunt man to act. But later in the show, like the next season, we were talking about it, and he said something about stunts and acting and all of this. And I said, "Oh, I know this producer who did an episode of television. It was a great episode, but he had the stunt man playing the guest starring role." And then he said, "Well, whoever that producer was an idiot." So I said, "Well, that producer was you, buddy." And I told him the episode, and he just fumed and stormed off. Adventures in the Screen Trade.
Yeah. Elena, I'll let you in with a final question before we go into the last segment.
Oh, well, okay, so final questions. If we want to fight vampires, what is our workout schedule that you would recommend to start?
Well, if you're going to fight vampires as a stunt person, I would say, if you're going to be like Buffy, you want to be like Buffy,
Yeah.
practice fast combinations, distance, a lot of head snapping, a lot of timing, distance, and back falls, a lot of back falls. Sophia's back is killing her today because of all of the back falls she did. So if you're going to do stunts, just know that your body is going to pay for it in the years ahead if
Yeah.
you're successful.
But it sounds like it's a lot of fun.
I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. But it sounds like it is a lot of fun while you're doing it, though.
Stunt. I would just say this: stunts. It's fun. It's so much fun, but it's the one job on a movie set where everyone goes to a movie set. They all have their jobs to do, but stunts is the one job where you don't know if you're going to be hurt that day, or if you do get hurt, how bad it will be. It's the one job where you're going to get bruised up. Percent.
Yeah.
You may think, oh well, I'll be careful. I'll be this. Sooner or later, it'll be something minor. It'll be something. It won't be the big stunt. It won't be the big dangerous stunt that you think of. It'll be small things, little things, but you're going to get hurt. So if you're going to be doing stunts, just know it's rough. It's not an easy.
Yeah. Because, quite famously, Jackie Chan's worst injury was just simply jumping off a wall onto a tree, and he fell down every branch on the way.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and I remember when he broke his ankle, just hopping down onto a boat. They had a little gymnastic mat, he broke his ankle hopping off that,
Oh
and then
yeah,
they still had a big finale. And the director, I was, Stanley Tong. This was Rumble in the Bronx,
yeah, I know
and
well.
in Rumble in the Bronx, Jackie was supposed to jump from one building down to another and go across the building and land on the balcony and go through a door. And that's actually Stanley Tong himself doing that, the director, because Stanley's a stuntman. So Stanley had, because Jackie had broken his ankle, and they're trying to figure out how to do
Yeah,
these stunts. And that's one of the things we used to, when I worked with the Hong Kong guys, I worked with a lot of Jackie's stunt doubles, and that was a guy that you had to pull back because he knew he was the star, and he realized, yes, every time I get hurt, then that puts the production on hold, right? Well,
yeah,
you can't do that in Hollywood. In Hong Kong, where there's no union, there was nothing. You could just put it on hold, come back 2 months later, that's pick it up. But in Hollywood, oh my God, if an actor gets hurt that badly, like Tom Cruise hurt his ankle, it wasn't necessary. His stunt double did this jump many times. He didn't have to have the big jump with Tom, but he wanted to do it, and
yeah,
he's also the boss. So, but that set the production back. It cost a lot of money. That one
yeah.
little thing, it wasn't necessary. Another time, Brad Pitt was running across. I remember I was talking to the stunt coordinator. There was what was the show, the movie with the about the when he was saying, "What's in the box? What's in the box?" You know that show, that movie.
Seven.
Anyway, Seven, yeah. So he was running. Brad Pitt. You notice he had a cast on his hand in that movie,
Yeah,
right? That's because he ran across some hoods of the cars, and it was supposed to be in the rain, and they had the cars, and he slipped, and his hand went through the windshield, right? And then they had to figure out how to write it into the script that he had a bandage on his hand. And I said to the stunt coordinator, why? Because it was just a shot of feet running away from camera. Why did you let him do that? And they said, because he's the star, and I had to let him do it. So I said, yeah, but that just shows you the kind of thing that can happen. On Buffy, we were talking about the one time an actress got hurt was when Cordelia in the prom. It was the prom episode, and we were fighting. I had Buffy fighting with these deer antlers, right? And also the guy she was fighting. That's also the director of John Wick. That was Chad Stahelski, who was my first Angel double. But I sent him to go do The Matrix, and when he did The Matrix, he hooked up with Keanu, and that started that whole thing. But so Sophia was fighting with Chad, and she throws down the antlers, and then Cordelia and Buffy are supposed to run and jump out a window.
mm-hmm.
So Charisma Carpenter wanted to run across the floor, and I said no. I said don't, because there's so much junk on the floor. I said it's just a shot from behind. Just let Jennifer Badger was a stunt double. I said just let Sophia and Jennifer Badger do it. She said no, I want to run. I want to run. So the director, who was one of the producers, he said, Jeff, I'm going to put my foot down here. This is not a stunt. She's just running. I said, yeah, but I don't. And he said, no, just let her do it. I don't want to hear about it. Just let her do it. So she ran across the floor. She tripped on the antlers, hit her nose on the table, and everybody thought her nose was broken because it was all split open. And then they took her away. And so I just looked at him, and he said, okay, you're right. You were right. I should have done it. And he said, yeah, man, we gotta protect the actors at all costs, even when they get mad at us. You know, they get mad at us because they feel like they're missing out on the action. But I'm telling you, they
Yeah,
don't have to do that stuff. That's what
yeah,
let the stunt person do it, because it's not worth it. We've got to try to figure out how to write. We had to change the whole schedule so that we could shoot scenes without her face in it. And
yeah.
it costs a lot of money to do that. Not to mention it's dangerous for the actor.
Okay, we've got one last viewer question. Gosha again. She's asking, with CGI becoming so advanced, what do you think the future looks like for stunt performance? Do you see technology replacing the craft or just changing how you work?
Yes, it is going to replace stunt people a lot. It's already replaced a lot of car stunts, a lot of high falls, burns that we used to do. Like there's an episode of Buffy where she's dreaming about being married to Angel or something, and Buffy goes up in flames, right? So I did a full burn with Sophia, then we did a burn on a mannequin, and then we did slightly a little bit of CG stuff, and it mixed it all together. But today, you would just do CG. You don't have to have endanger anybody. There's no elaborate fire prep or anything. And high falls, burns, and certain car stunts are already gone. They've tried to do it with fight scenes. Like in the first Wonder Woman, you'll see part of her fight scene is actually, but it looks like when there's Superman flying around, they're kind of used to it. But when you're trying to do a martial arts fight, one-on-one fighting with someone, it looks like a video game too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now it does. But in the future, I predict in the future it'll be less and less work for stunt people because it'll simply be AI or CG characters doing that same action. Once you're able to control the bodies and make what you want out of it, then yeah. Right now it's the fighting stuff is too elaborate and it requires changing and everything, but eventually it's going to get there. That'll
Yeah.
be the last thing to go.
Yeah, I think that's why, like, the last Mad Max film was such a breath of fresh air. It had weight to it,
Right.
and you realized what you'd been missing all these years.
Well, I hear that from people. Every time people get used to seeing these movies that, like a lot of the superhero movies that are just,
Yeah.
there's so much CG. And then when they see a film where people are really doing real stunts, it's like, oh, wow, they jump because they can feel the difference.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. But how soon will it be that they're able to, you won't be able to tell.
Yeah.
You won't get that video game feeling. You'll just get real life feeling. And it's coming fast, it's coming fast.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I was there. I was there during the good times, the good years,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I like to say.
Well, we'll end on a good note. We always end with a bit of a quick fire round. Are you ready for some quick fire questions?
Sure.
So it's just, we'll ask, and it's first thing that comes into your head. So question number one, would you rather a bigger paycheck or a bigger explosion on a film?
Well, I don't care how big the explosion is, so I would rather a big paycheck. The same, but I will say this: I would rather a bigger fight than a bigger paycheck. Put it that
Okay.
way. If I can do a more elaborate action scene, more elaborate fight, I like that better than the paycheck.
Okay. So best movie fight of the last decade you didn't work on?
Oh man, you know what? I would say since 2016, I haven't really paid attention.
Yeah.
And even the shows that I worked on in 2020, I've never seen them. I
Yeah.
just go in and it's like I lost my excitement over it. It's like I'd done it for so long going to say, and
Yeah.
I recently, worked with some guys and I set up all of these elaborate wire gags and I've never even bothered to look at it because
Yeah.
it's like I've done it so much. It's not the same as it was for me
Yeah.
back then. I don't, so I have no idea what when I run into another stunt guy and they're telling me about working on this show or that, or the actors, I have
Yeah.
no idea I go, man, I've never seen it. I just watch
All right.
YouTube,
All right.
I don't watch, I don't care. I don't care.
So what would you rather have in your collection? A Power Rangers helmet or Buffy's leather jacket?
Well, we've got both in our collection.
right.
So we've got the stake. Yeah. As a matter of fact, at our coffee shop, we have a Power Ranger helmet. We have all of the jackets from Buffy and Power Rangers and
All
all
right.
of these shows. And we've got various, pictures on the wall of behind the scenes of all
Yeah.
of these shows. So, yeah. So we have those things.
So
Buffy, the leather pants that Buffy wore in the Buffy versus Faith fight, we've still got those. Yeah.
Wow.
wow. On the day of a big stunt, what would you be drinking? A coffee or a Red Bull before you go?
Are you breaking up, Cal? I
The
can't.
question is, if you're doing a big stunt, would you drink coffee or Red Bull?
Sophia used to always have a Red Bull in her hand during the Buffy days, but I would only drink coffee and Cokes, so Coca-Cola. So that's it. But I never drank. Although, let me tell you something about Red Bull, if I can just do a quick plug. Those guys, they have their stunt award, the Taurus Award. When I got injured, I injured my back on a motorcycle crash, and I had the insurance company was like holding off, refusing to pay, but I had all of this. So the medical bills were being sent to me, and we were like calling the producers, going, "Hey, what's happening?" And I was in a bind. I thought, wow, there's $30,000 of bills here coming at me. And the people at Red Bull said, don't worry, Jeff, we'll take care of it. And they just gave me a check for
Wow.
30 grand. And so then the insurance kicked in. And so I had an extra 30 grand. And it's like, they just gave it to me. And they said, no, you got injured on the set, and we're backing you. We back the stunt people. I went, wow, wow. So Red Bull.
Yeah.
Now I'll drink a ton of Red Bull. Before that,
What
I didn't drink Red Bull, but now once they did that for me, I won't forget that. I will drink Red Bull now.
what's the injury you remember the most vividly?
The injury that is what the most bothersome to me today,
Or the
or
one you just remember the most, that your own injury doing stunt work, an injury you got?
I would say the back injury, because I fractured vertebrae in my
Ooh.
back, and that was a big mess. It was it was I was supposed to be doing a different stunt that day. I was going to do what we called
Yeah.
it was a dead man, which is a wire attached to a harness, and I fly off backwards. This was like a Mad Max type scene. And then at the last second, the director said, "Oh, well, let's do a jump. Can you do a jump for me over camera?" And I said, "Yeah, if we had a ramp." And he said, "Well, let me get the guys to build one. Would that be okay?" And I said, "Okay, if they can do it, but let me test it first." So they built a ramp out of a tailgate of a truck, and I looked at it and I said, well, I have to test it. Don't dig the hole for the camera operator to get in, because I have to jump over camera. I said, don't dig the hole yet, because I have to test it slow first. But then the motorcycle wouldn't work because the guy had forgotten to bring a battery, so I had to take it to my truck and get it jumped off. By the time I got the motorcycle running,
Yeah.
it was this Mad Max looking thing with steel spikes sticking out of it. It was super fast, but oh my God, was it a death trap. So I came up, and then they had dug the hole because the sun was moving, and the director wanted to get the shot with the sunrise, looking into the sunrise. So I had no choice. I said, God, I had to test this to ramp to make sure it's good. So now I'm going to have to hit it full speed. And they said, just go, we got to go. So I jumped, and I did the jump, and it was perfect. I flew over the camera, landed, kept going. And then the director said, oh, the other guys were too slow. They were too far behind. They were chasing you. Do it one more time. And I said, yeah, but I felt the ramp move. I said, we got to check the ramp. He said, we don't have time. We don't have time. We're rolling. Go. And I was like, and I always told stunt guys, if something's wrong, tell me and I will stop it. But I was looking around. There were no other stunt people. It was just me, and the whole crew was looking at me. And this is what many stunt people have gotten hurt doing this. I've seen it happen on other shows and commercials. I saw it in Ireland. It happened one time where they pressured a girl to jump off a helicopter to hit an airbag, and she knew the wind was blowing, and she missed the airbag. So with me, they were going, just go, Jeff, just go. The sun is moving. We got to shoot. We're rolling. So fuck. So I had to go, and I went full speed, and I hit it. And as soon as I hit it, the ramp broke and stuck on the motorcycle. And so the motorcycle just stopped, and I banged into it, went over and rolled, and it broke my back and my collarbone and all of this stuff. So that was the worst injury, because I went to the hospital. Then they told me that I needed to go to the hospital. And I said, what? And they said, well, you've got a broken back, broken collarbone. You need to see an orthopedic surgeon, but we don't have anyone. So you need to go. And I said, okay. So they took me back to the set out in the desert, and I had to wait 10 hours to come back home. And then when I got home, I still couldn't see a doctor. And so for 1 week, I laid in bed taking pain pills from my neighbor next door, while Sophia fought on the phone with the producers saying, hey, we got to go see a doctor. There was something wrong with their insurance. What had happened, and this is something that happens to stunt people, the production did not factor in for stunts on the in order to be cheap and save money.
Yeah.
They said there were no stunts. That's what I think happened. And in reality, we're doing all of these elaborate stunts. So when the ramp broke and the insurance company was trying not to pay, and they were going back and forth. So finally, I did get help, and I did get insurance, and I did get through it. But that was the thing that Red Bull kicked in and helped me out with that. But I was laying there in bed with a broken back for a week. And man, that was so, I'll never forget that. That I will never forget.
Yeah.
It was a
Oh,
painful thing.
Ouch.
and I still feel it to this day. You have to be
Uh,
careful.
all right. Next question. Your favorite prop weapon? A sword, a gun, or your fists?
Question?
Your favorite prop weapon? A sword, a gun, or your fists?
Well, I it's always fun with a gun. It is fun, but I don't know. I would say fists because we enjoy doing fight scenes. But as far as props, the gun. But I always have to say the steak because of my wife. You know,
Yeah.
because if I say she'll say, "Why didn't you say steak?" The steak. It's we used to call Mr. Pointy. So
Yeah. All
we
right.
have Mr. Pointy on the wall at the coffee shop, and she's
Wow.
like, "You should have said Mr. Pointy." So Mr. Pointy, okay, that's in case any Buffy fans, they know Mr. Pointy is the name of the steak.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the one thing you wish actors would stop trying to do themselves?
Would stop trying to do.
If there's one thing you could say to actors, no, you just can't. If there was a blanket rule you could make for actors to stop trying to do that.
I don't know. I mean, my experience with the actors is they're pretty gung ho and easygoing. I guess the only thing as far as actors go, and this happened on Buffy. This happened to me on a show with Dolph Lundgren and with other guys. It's this thing where if they become jealous of the stunt double, which happened with Sophia and Sarah, unfortunately, but it's just this thing where, look, we're making you look good. It doesn't matter if like on Buffy, the crew was ordered not to clap for Sophia anymore because it upset Sarah. So it's like I would be the only guy standing there going, "Good job, baby, good job." I did that for everybody. But I just think there's something about actors, and it's like Tom Cruise. His stunt double got fired because we were going to give him an award for this motorcycle stunt. But Tom had said he did all of those stunts himself. So since Tom is going on the Tonight Show and saying, I do it all, I do everything," and then we're giving an award to his stunt double for doing that stunt, then that jealousy thing, I wish that would go away.
Okay.
Just because in the early days of making films, actors weren't so the way they are now. They're so it's all about me, and it has to be about me. No, I did that. I wrote the script. I directed. I made it better. Everything I did, it's get off that, man. Just be good at acting. That's what you're supposed to do. Forget about trying to tell everybody you do all your own stunts or you do most of the fighting or just do what you can do and then give credit to the people who actually make you look good. Give them the credit.
Okay.
We all contribute.
And last question. I think you kind of answered this in the pre-show chat we had. If you weren't a stunt coordinator, what would you be?
I almost became a cop. I did.
All right.
I took the test. I went through some training and stuff, and then I wound up having a chance to go to Los Angeles. Like it was in between Georgia and Los Angeles. I went to California and I started working with some guys, and they were they were going out for the CHP. So they brought me along, and then I enjoyed it, and they asked me to continue and go to the academy. And then just before I went, I thought to myself, I had this goal of doing this in stunts. I wanted to make this certain type of action scene. And I said, if I go and become a cop, I'll have a good career, but I'm always going to wonder, I wish I had done that. So instead I said, okay, I'm going to step away and I'm going to go back and do the stunts. So I did, and it turned out pretty good. So
Okay.
I got to do what I wanted. A lot of people don't get to
Yeah.
do what they really want. And I did. So I'm happy about
Yeah.
that.
And you got to meet your wife as well. What more could you want?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jeff, thank you very much for your time. And there's a lot of noise coming from
Thank you.
somewhere. Again, big thank you to Jeff. If people want to reach out, if they've got questions or they want to see more of your stuff, you mentioned a YouTube channel. Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel where I've thrown up all of these Buffy behind the scenes things, or you can just email me, Jeff Pruitt Stunts at gmail.com.
Yep. Okay. And Thank you to my co-host Elena. It's been great
Thank
to
you.
have you again. Thank you
Nice to
everyone
meet you, Elena.
and thank you everyone for watching and when you get to listen to this. And we'll look forward to the next episode, which is strangely enough a retrospective of Buffy continues. We're looking at season 2, and you've got a fresh look at this now, Elena, to take into the next episode. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Good night, and we'll see you all very soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Bye.
Okay, just one sec.
Okay.